Philagobity. Here is part 3 of the interview with Jane Smith, author of Three Times Buried. I hope you enjoy.
A dose of rank fission he then did procure, which he had laid on him for that fatal hour. The fission he gave her was evident and clear. When all was discovered, the truth did appear.
What did you think? I find this interesting myself in other things that I've read, but like the local traditions and superstitions about death and how to treat death here in Aberdeenshire. I imagine with Scots immigrating, you'd have similar traditions and or superstitions in Australia, as indeed kind of the world around. There's some in kind of everywhere that the Scots have settled. It seems that these sort of traditions have not survived, but were there at some time. So what did you think of that?
Well, yeah, the traditions, well, especially surrounding death, were very far from my experience. You know, they were really unusual, fascinating, and bizarre, some of them.
Yeah.
But I can see how rituals can be helpful following a death. You know, when you're grieving, I can see it's helpful to have expected behaviour to get you through the steps. So whatever those rituals might be. So while, you know, I can't see any sense or relate to the superstitious side of the rituals, I can certainly see how they might have helped the people who are grieving and have value for that reason. So yeah,
Okay.
there were some strange rituals.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They're unusual. Yes, I can say.
Yeah,
Um,
like leaving the windows and doors open no matter what the weather, so that the spirit can fly out. And
yeah.
um, you know, even things like sitting up all night with the deceased body to guard it. It
Yeah.
probably has no practical purpose, but I can see how that would still would help somebody who was grieving
Yeah.
to spend
It may
time
be.
with their deceased. Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if that has something to do with they may not be absolutely sure that they're dead. So in case they wake up or something, then they not to bury the body too quickly.
Yeah, true. And
Perhaps.
they did bury them fairly quickly. But and I think that might have been tied up with the fact that they weren't allowed to plough the soil or to, you know, to turn the soil until the body was buried. So
Oh,
in a
right. Okay.
community that lived by the farming, they couldn't let that go for too long. So they'd need to bury the body fairly. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess if they sat up with them all night, they'd be looking out for any any
Yeah.
stirring.
Um, and how satisfied were you with the verdict for John Lovey? And what do you think of Scotland's not proven verdict?
Well, you know, at first I found it not all that satisfying, but having thought about it a lot more, I think really that it's probably the only way that it could have gone in the absence of any, you know, forensics and um, any type of investigation that we might be able to deploy these days. So yeah, I think it was a good verdict.
Okay.
The not proven verdict was new to me, and actually it was only while I was over there a few months ago that I discovered that it's still used in Scotland.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think, but it was an interesting thing, you know, when I was writing the court scene, a lot of all the witness statements were written up in some detail in the trial notes at the archives and in the newspapers, but nowhere could I find the summings up of the prosecution or the defence lawyer. So I didn't know what they said to influence the jury. But there was a similar case just before that, the Mary Smith case, which was very similar to John Lovey's case. Same prosecution, same defence, similar crime, and the lawyers' summings up were available. So I read them and I was able to get an idea of the sort of things that they might have used to influence the jury. So that was a lot of fun. I created the defence based on that and the prosecution's case. And when I was writing the prosecution case, I convinced myself that he was guilty for sure. But then when I started looking at all the holes in the case and writing the defence's case, then I thought, oh, maybe he wasn't.
All right.
So I convinced myself both ways. That's why I think that that's probably the only verdict that they could have come up with.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's
What do you think about it?
I thought he was guilty. I think I thought he got away with it, but and kind of
I think so too. But the justice of it, you can't
right. I
convict
suppose
somebody with solid evidence.
Yeah, and kind of what you said or what you had your character say about the not proven verdict is almost verbatim what I've read in another mystery novel about. That's when everyone is pretty sure that the individual did it, but they just couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
So they have the not proven verdict, but it is an interesting. It's unique to Scotland, I think. It's the only country that has the 3 verdict system, and every once in a while, someone comes along saying we need to get rid of it and just have guilty and not guilty. But anyway, that's what we've got at the moment. So
yeah.
You also talked about in the author's notes that there's this Mrs. Taylor who's written a song about John Lovey, which can be found in the Greg Duncan Folk Collection, Volume 2, which we have here in the Local Studies Center. And have you heard that song, or have you read the lyrics written by this Mrs. Taylor?
I've got the lyrics to it. I searched for quite a while to find out what the tune was. I wrote to lots of people and organisations, and I think it was the Northeast Folklore Archive helped. They suggested, they couldn't say for sure, but they suggested a few tunes that it might have been based on the meter and based on its position in that Greg Duncan Folk Song Collection. So they gave me 2 or 3, well, mainly 2 that they thought it probably was. So my son is a musician, and we played them, and I had a book launch here last March, and I really wanted that song played at my launch. So we just picked one that we felt had an atmosphere that was true to the story. And he played it and played on the guitar and sang it at my book launch, which was a perfect start to the launch. It just, got everyone's attention and set the tone. Yeah. Do you have any firm information about the tune? Because we ended up using the head of Cockpen.
No, is the short answer to that one. I myself found the lyrics and read through them, and yeah, this Mrs. Taylor didn't pull her punches and what she thought.
No,
but
she was quite cute.
But like yourself, I was looking to see what tune it would have gone to, because in the Greg Duncan song collection book, some of the tunes they have the music to. And others they don't, and this is one that they didn't have it to. But I was kind of wondering myself, like, where could I looked in kind of a few places, but I was not successful with the music version of it. But I'm glad you found it. That's because that was
it's
great.
a possibility anyway. A strong possibility.
and
When we did it at the launch, we had to cut out a few verses because we didn't want to give away any plot spoilers.
yes, right.
And also, there were one or two words that were really unfamiliar that we anglicised a bit for our Australian audience, but not all of
Okay.
them. We left a few words in. It came across beautifully. I'm probably
Oh,
biased, but I thought he did a wonderful job.
yeah.
Now death with its weapon and conquering dart, it soon made a way into this young woman's heart. A faltering voice for her mother she cried, but every assistance to her was denied. No hand was to help her, no mercy was shown, till the last thread of life was expired and gone. At length came her mother with a heart-rending grief, to find her enclosed in the arms of death.
That was the end of part 3 with the interview with Jane Smith, author of Three Times Buried. Please tune in again for part 4, which will be coming up very quickly. The song, John Lovey, was performed there by Eddie Ithaca.